Cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live with a solid 10-second delay.
You are now about to witness.
Tonight is a special cross-channel live stream, the Jedi Cantina and American Anomalies podcast. Get over there and subscribe. If you're not subscribed to this one here where you're watching, subscribe. What are you doing with yourself? So the podcast started last week on its own channel. This is all American-based lore, urban legends, conspiracies, anything, that happened here on our soil. Not to say it couldn't stretch into Canada, South America, things like that. But for now, United States. American Anomalies.
And with that, hey, cheers.
Yeah, let's do this. I got a little moonshine.
All right. Here we
There
are.
we go. Let us know in the chat, too, as we're going through this. Comment on the stories we're telling. Give us ideas for stories to tell in our next few episodes and things like that for next time. If you've had some events and things like that, or if you want to come on the show, even, we'll figure it out and we'll get with you. So we're going to take, after this, we'll edit this out. So the podcast will actually be us doing sort of story time and discussing this amongst ourselves. When we're done and complete at the end, we'll come back to the chat and interact with you guys. So don't feel left out. We're just trying to put a little shine on the production, And right now it's exclusively on YouTube. So again, the Jedi Cantina or American Anomalies podcast channels, please subscribe to both. I'll probably do them on both channels live for a while because we have a bigger audience over on the Cantina channel. And I want to try and get a few of you into it. So I think we're all into stuff like this. If you're into sci-fi, you're into podcasts, stuff like this, lore, urban legends, hauntings, serial killers, all that good stuff. So without further ado, I want to hit the button. Hold on.
Hit the button. There you go. Make it official.
You're listening to the American Anomalies podcast.
There you go.
With Jeff Hill.
Okay.
And Brett Morton. I'm going to kick it off. I'm going to talk about the Lawson family Christmas tragedy. This was in 1929. Let's travel back to Germantown, North Carolina, December 25th, 1929. One of the early years of the Great Depression in America. Here lived Charles Davis Charlie Lawson, a 43-year-old tobacco farmer who, along with his wife Fanny, had 8 children. Their third child, William, had tragically died in 1920 from illness. In 1918, the couple had followed Charlie's brothers into the Germantown area, and after years as tenant farmers, had finally saved enough to buy their own farmland by 1927. So first thing I want to talk about right here. They moved there in 1918, and by 1927, they're buying their own farm. I like their drive because I don't know where the money was coming from, but they did it right.
Yep.
Despite modest circumstances, Charlie was described by the Associated Press as a well-to-do farmer, a curious label that complicated how the sudden generosity of those final days looked. So before the events of this, he had taken his family, and I'll get into it here in a minute, and did some things around town, threw some money around, and it would have raised some eyebrows, back in these days. It's the early days of the Depression, and here you got a guy buying suits and photography and all this other stuff. So just days before Christmas, Lawson took his family, Fanny and their 7 children, into town. He bought them new clothes and commissioned a family portrait. For a struggling rural family, this was unusual and led many to suspect that something ominous was premeditated, which it was. And it'll become clear here in a second. On the afternoon of December 25th, everything changed forever. First, Lawson lay in wait by the tobacco barn as his daughter Carrie, age 12, and Maybelle, age 7, headed to their uncle and aunt's house. He shot them with a 12-gauge shotgun and bludgeoned them to ensure their deaths. Their bodies were left in the barn. I mean, I'm not sure if you're dead, so I'm going to beat you with something.
Enough,
yeah. He then moved to the house, shooting Fanny on the porch. Inside, Marie, age 17, screamed. James, age 4, and Raymond, age 2, tried to hide, but were found and shot. Finally, baby Mary Lou, just 4 months old, was killed, likely bludgeoned. Miraculously, the only survivor was the eldest child, Arthur, age 19, who had been sent on an errand just before the violence began. Isn't that odd, though? Like, maybe he saw the kid as a threat physically, stature. Maybe the kid was a big boy, farmers, pretty healthy, 19, pretty strong. You're kind of at your peak right there. Hormonally speaking, strong as an ox,
or maybe he wanted to leave an heir.
Good point. So the discovery and the aftermath, when neighbors and a police officer arrived who had been called because they heard shots, they found the bodies with their arms crossed and rocks under their heads as if posed for a final eerie scene. A suicide shot in the forest signaled Lawson's end. Investigators later found him dead beneath a tree where footprints revealed he had been pacing as if trapped by remorse or madness. The motive remains deeply unsettling and is still open for debate. One theory suggested Lawson's mental state had changed after a head injury, though an autopsy at Johns Hopkins revealed nothing abnormal in his brain. Okay, so I got to ask, in 1929, a brain autopsy, I don't know how advanced we were.
Right.
I guess if we were doing autopsies in 1929, obviously we knew that we could look for things under the surface, right? But like, you're taking that look, it's like, what are you seeing that you know about?
Yeah, if you don't see an obvious like laceration in the brain, then you think, okay,
or a bruise or something like that. It's a good theory that, when he hit his head, he had a head injury. That's an excellent theory. And that also made me think, like, yeah, wow, that's something to think about. The guy, it could have been some kind of aneurysm or something, and it affected him, his mental capacity, and he lost it. But there's a deeper, more disturbing claim that first surfaced in White Christmas, Bloody Christmas in 1990. More research had been done on this case, and it was thought that Marie was pregnant with her father's child. According to shamblings of family whispers and later corroborated in The Meaning of Our Tears from 2006, Marie confided to a friend in the weeks before Christmas that she was carrying Charlie's child and that both parents knew. So was the massacre an act of concealment? We may never know for certain. After the tragedy, Lawson's brother, Marion, turned the family's farmhouse into a grim tourist stop.
Oh, boy.
A Christmas cake that Fanny had made that day became a showpiece and was only protected by glass. Visitors began picking at the raisins for souvenirs. The tragedy echoed into popular culture the following year. A 1930 murder ballad, The Murder of the Lawson Family, was recorded and later covered by the Stanley Brothers in 1956. This is where it gets kind of weird for me here, too. The Lawson family was buried in a private Browder family graveyard with misleading symbols on the tombstones that led some to believe Charlie was a Freemason, but actually he belonged to a different fraternal organization, the Junior Order of United American Mechanics, which had a similar logo. So I guess people had said he was a Freemason and it was some kind of sort of cultish thing that he was doing. But it says here that Arthur, the surviving son, later died in an automobile accident in 1945, leaving behind a wife and 4 children. In more recent times, the site of the murders and the funeral home have became featured in the Netflix paranormal series 28 Days Haunted, further merging fact and folklore. I tried to look that show up, and it's different episodes, and one of the episodes is about this. So I didn't want to get too deep into that, I don't want to push Netflix when I'm trying to push my own podcast. So, but there's stuff out there you can watch.
Right.
As Christmases go, few have carried the weight of horror and heartbreak like that of 1929 in Germantown, North Carolina. Behind the quiet rhythms of rural life, in a single afternoon, one man destroyed what he had built: a family, a home, and a community's peace. Ultimately, the Lawson case is not just a story of tragedy, but of how secrets, ambition, and perhaps madness can converge into unthinkable outcomes. It warns us how a moment or a lifetime of veiled truths can lead to destruction. If this lingers with you, or if you have themes you'd like us to explore, reach out. We'd love to hear from you. I think that it makes perfect sense about the head injury, but also maybe something with the father and the oldest daughter.
Yeah.
But
Cover up.
to cover it up by killing the whole family seems really over the top, but it could have been attributed to having the head injury, making the smallest ideas or dark thoughts magnified.
Right. The only way out is
I'm not trying to give the
everyone
guy
out.
an out for what he did. I'm just trying to make sense of it, right? So,
but why either he sent or the wife sent the oldest son out, like you said, get him out of the way so he wouldn't be. But if you're using a shotgun, I don't care how big and bad you are, you're not going to stand up to a shotgun.
It was said that the parents both knew, so maybe they were fighting about it, and maybe they sent the son out because maybe they thought the younger kids, the girl and the younger kid, were going to go to the aunt and uncles. They were going to argue. If they were going to argue, it was going to be in front of the really little ones who wouldn't quite get it.
Right.
So they send the older boy, run to the store, go grab us a bag of flour, and then they could argue it out because it's Christmas Day, whatever. Right. And maybe she had a feeling something was coming to a head, and then he disappears. And so she hears the gunshots and comes out to the porch. He's heading back to the house and takes her out right there on the spot. The little ones in the house they hear that. It's scared. I'm sure the sound alone, I can't imagine. It probably terrified them.
I wonder if the events leading up to that, where you say he was out spending money, getting pictures taken, which back then was a big deal, right?
Right. And everybody would know in a small town. They would know you're doing that.
Right. So
you got 10 people, 8 children, or 7 children, sorry, because the one had passed. So 7 children and the parents are all together in a store waiting. Yeah. People are going to see that.
And it was like one last hurrah.
Right. That's why people, and like I said, it's right when we're getting into the depression and money's not a super available thing. And this guy's just tossing money, buying suits. And people in town are like, well, he's just a farmer. But the newspaper had done an article to try and kind of get that clickbait, so to speak, that we call it. They called him a well-to-do farmer. He's a tobacco farmer. He busted his ass and bought a farm in 10 years. That to me says something in the 1920s. Like, wow, you were kicking ass 1918 to 1928. You had a 10-year run and you were able to buy a farm.
Right.
So you were putting in some hours, you were doing some work, and then you hit your head and it's like,
Yeah, I wonder if it was pre-planned because it was like, I'm going to throw all this money around, treat my family right, knowing I'm taking them out. Or maybe it was a spur of the moment, heat of the passion.
And then you have the darkness of him having relations with his own daughter.
Yeah, that throws a different spin.
I don't know the lay of the land there to say, there was nothing around for miles other than this little one-horse town, and who I can't even fathom. I have a daughter. I can't fathom that.
Right.
It's pretty sick. So maybe he was just so disgusted with his own actions even.
Yep.
And he's having these just dark thoughts, dark scenes going on.
And then he took himself out too. So
took himself out at the end. Yeah. So maybe he thought, I'm going to do it. And I know they won't live with it either. So I'm going to take them all out. But then he kind of poses them in their suits.
Yeah.
And puts their heads on rocks to kind of cushion their heads. It's just really, really twisted.
Yeah.
That's a theory too. Some of the serial killer episodes we've done in the past, that's something that we've come across, are some of these things these guys do as far as once the person's physically dead, they do some kind of ceremonial thing, like a trophy, or cut a body part off and pose it, or keep it, or desecrate it in some weird way that you just think it would turn my stomach. But when this person's in this mental state, they have to have this sort of proof that they did it, or it's kind of like they're still thinking they're not completely gone yet, and I'm comforting them. Or it's just it's something happens across a lot of these.
A lot of times when they're somebody close to you, they'll cover them. They'll cover their face because they're ashamed, or
And that's
Can't
usually
stand seeing them or
that usually
something.
tips off the investigators.
Right.
Certain like, what is it, like when somebody's stabbed like 85 times, they're like, oh, this person hated their
It's
guts.
overkill.
They knew
Yeah.
them very well. Or if it's done in a bedroom or face down, or they can already tell, they've profiled it a million times. Like, yep, that was shame. That was somebody knew him, a family
Guilt,
member.
that's,
Yep.
yeah, something.
Yeah, a business
right.
partner or something. Yeah. So we'll be getting deeper into some of these, but again, let us know in the chat or comment later on some of these things you've heard about too. If you want us to cover some, we will. But now we're going to hear from Jeff.
Yep.
Here we go. Check it out.
We're going to cover Mount Shasta in Siskiyou County, California. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but Northern California. It's part of the Cascade Mountain Range. It sits at over 14,000 feet high. It's also an active volcano. So there's a lot of mystery that surrounds Shasta. There's a lot of lore, legends, different accounts, and I'm just going to highlight a few of these here today. One by Joaquin Miller back in the 1870s. He wrote a little story that talked about the Mount Shasta was inhabited by the spirit of Chief Skell, who fought the spirit of Lao from the spirit of the below world. They both resided on these volcanoes, and they threw fire and lava at each other, which of course would be eruptions, but that was the lore back in the day, that these spirits were having a war and a battle against each other. There was also a British prospector named J.C. Brown, and he says in 1904 he discovered a lost city underground there. He was originally hired by the Lord Cowdrey Mining Company to prospect for gold, but in doing so, he discovered a cave that sloped down 11 miles, which heck of a cave there. So as he was traveling down, he began to stumble across different items, gold, some shields, and eventually he found mummies. He says that he also saw a 10-foot tall being down in the 11-foot or 11-mile long cave. Now, there's no actual proof. This is just his story that he relayed. But then 30 years later, he was telling the story to another gentleman where they decided to get a group of people, over 80 people, were going to all go down and explore this to look for this city with gold and these large beings in there. And that day that he was supposed to go down, this group, this J.C. Brown never showed up, and nobody ever heard from him again.
Really?
Was it a coincidence? Did he die? Did he stumble, bump his head? Nobody found him, but everybody was going to go down and look for him, and he didn't show up, and nobody ever heard from him again. So maybe the mountain was protecting itself. Who knows? But I did not get to read if the other 80 people.
I was going to say, if the expedition did it go on without him.
I don't.
And
think
did he claim that the large being that he saw was alive, or it was a mummy too?
A moving being, like a living being, not necessarily human, but like the shape of a being, but 10-foot tall.
Okay.
Then let's go back to 1899, just a little before this. Frederick Spencer Oliver published A Dweller on Two Planets. So he wrote a story about this, wrote a book. And in there, he talked about, claimed that survivors from the sunken continent of Lemuria, some of you may have heard of that, or Atlanteans, were living on or in Mount Shasta. The survivors of the continent that was called Lemuria was a huge landmass before continents broke apart and kind of divided to where they are today. They said that they had a complicated network of tunnels under there, and there was occasionally they'd be seen large beings, 8 foot tall, and dressed in white robes, head to toe, were seen walking around the surface rather than in the tunnels, walking around the entrance to caves on Mount Shasta. There's also a lot of Native American lore here, and a lot of the Native American population consider Mount Shasta to be a sacred place and connected to mysterious powers and protected by ancient spirits. It's they have been inhabited for over 9,000 years. As far as Native American tribes go back, they claim that their ancestors have been in and around there for 9,000 years. In recent years, it has been closely related to mysterious flying objects. A lot of people see flying saucers or UFOs or UAPs, and there's secret underground bases for black ops testing, some have said. There's a lot of video footage you can look up online of strange objects flying around the tops of the mountains or around there, moving at incredible speeds. The Hopi Indians have a legend about the vast tunnel networks and that a race of reptilian people live there. Very tall humanoids, and they sometimes visit surrounding communities, they say. Don't know what to think about the reptilian humanoid people, though.
I'm still tripping. I'm still tripping on the fact that it's an active volcano in California, because I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And it's probably takes some effort to get up to the plateau or whatever where they can look down and see this.
Yeah. It's
supposed
it's
site,
over 14,000 foot tall,
Yeah.
so not the tallest by any stretch. I don't know when the last time it actually erupted, but it's not dormant, so that it's still venting, but not actively.
And it doesn't necessarily say how high they had to climb in order before he saw some things.
Right.
So there must be some plateaus and some crevasses or whatever somewhere that he was like looking in, going, "Holy shit!"
And it's not just at the base where there could be a cave network, but yes, somewhere up on the slopes there. So a couple of other more recent mysteries that have happened around there. In 2011, there was a 6-year-old boy that disappeared, and there was witnesses. They said that he just vanished. He was there for 1 second, and the next second he wasn't there. They searched for him, could not find him. He was gone for about 5 hours, and 5 hours later, he reappeared and acted as if nothing happened. There was no harm to him. He wasn't freaked out. He just was playing, wasn't there. They searched everywhere. 5 hours later, he just reappeared, and he acted as nothing happened. Of course, everybody else was freaked out.
Yeah.
But with a 6-year-old boy, didn't complain of anything, wasn't scared of
so we're seeing a pattern of some odd things happening around this place.
Very odd things. Very.
Okay.
Also in 2011, there was an LA man. Now, he said that he had heard a woman calling to him in the forest. So this is kind of at the base of the mountain, so to speak, the foothills of the mountain, but he heard a woman calling to him from the forest. And he said that her voice was so captivating that he felt compelled to follow it. He was just in awe of this voice. So he followed it in there, and he disappeared for weeks. His family, friends never heard from him for weeks. When he did reappear, he said he was kidnapped by some mysterious forces, and he was taken to a very dark tunnel. And then this unusually tall woman, he didn't describe exactly how tall she was, unusually tall, 7 feet, 8 feet, who knows, but she was dressed in a strange uniform and had deep blue eyes. She actually rescued him from this dark tunnel and brought him back. So that's how he reappeared. Now, was the guy out there and had a little too much to drink or smoke or who knows what?
I mean,
but this is only a tale.
Couple of weeks, right?
But he was gone for a couple of weeks.
Nobody
heard from him, and then he told this tale of reappear.
Can I just interject that a lot of theories on aliens are that they look just like us, or it's a trick of site where you think they look just like you,
Right.
because your mind doesn't want to believe what it's seen, and they can somehow transmit an image to you. It's just that, like the
Right.
woman's voice, like this will bring this guy over here and we can probe him and run experiments on him or whatever. But it
Exactly.
is something to that, you know. Somebody brought up skinwalkers and things like that, and it's like there's just that theory that there can be other beings out in the universe, but perhaps they do look a lot like us. Or, you know, someone that says like the woman with the piercing blue eyes and stuff like that. It's like, that's creepy, man. It's just really creepy.
And her voice was so captivating, calling to him,
Well,
luring him in. Yet,
and isn't there something to be said about hypnotic things, about music and song and sort of soft, you know, if somebody's talking to you in a soft way and you're hurting, you kind of feel comforted, right? It's an
sure.
I just don't want anybody out in the woods saying, I have beer.
Yeah.
Free beer.
Cold beer. Come see me. So to wrap that up, it also has been linked to people consider Mount Shasta to be an entrance, or areas around there, an entrance to the underworld or inner earth, like the hollow earth theory, or an underground network where people live, reptilians live, you know, ancient humans live, aliens live, whatever is this underground. So here's a few places, and you can go visit these if you want to go on vacation, go check them out. Pluto's Cave is believed to be 190,000 years old when it formed, but it's also supposed to be connected to the entrance to the hollow earth. Panther Meadow is a spiritual hotspot. Again, many believe there's a portal to hollow earth or inner earth. Castle Lake is another one. Mount Shasta Caverns, Shasta Trinity National Forest, and the McCloud River are just some actual sites you can go visit, and you can check it out yourself and see if you feel or see or hear anything odd out there.
Yeah, that's when it hits home a little more, when you can actually go to these places.
Yeah.
Last week when we talked about the mounds in parts of Indiana, you can go to these places.
Right.
This place out in California, you can go there.
Yep.
So like
you may not experience anything at all.
But it'd be cool to hear from some people that just went camping somewhere nearby. I was like, oh yeah.
Or somebody that lives there or has experience there.
Yeah. The caverns and the cave network theories about certain places, you know, one of the things I wanted to talk about too was there's people that think a lot of mountain ranges have sort of cavernous networks all across the country. There's like tunnel systems and all this other stuff we can delve into at another time, but there's people that really think, and there may be some validity to it, because, you know, think about it, if you go back to like the pre-dawn ages of modern man, people were living in caves. We know this.
Right.
So how do we know civilization never stopped going in some of these places?
Or some cataclysms came and people needed to protect themselves from the burning hot sun or the freezing winter or whatever it is. We do know that there are mountains that are used by the military, that they've carved out spots in there for, you know.
But we had to learn that somewhere.
Sure.
Along the way.
Sure. So. Oh yeah, I definitely believe there are caves and tunnel systems that were used by ancient humans for whatever, many variety of reasons.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. So again, guys, comment in the chat if there's something like this you know about, if you've heard of this, what you think of it.
Personal experience, friends, family.
And if there's something else you want us to cover next time. But now we're going to switch to our ongoing segment we've been talking about, which is Atlas Watch. Atlas Watch 25. There's a site out there called What the Fact, and they wrote a nice sort of a little write-up on it. You know, the latest update that I read was now this thing is burning its own light. It's now there's a second craft off of Saturn that's been hovering that we saw in 2017, and they think it's the craft that came first to scout to tell this big 7,000-mile wide mothership to go ahead and come on in. It's getting wilder by the week, man. Every day there's something new to this, and a lot of it I know is clickbait and things.
Sure,
but
sure.
let me just read this real quick and before we end it tonight. I just thought some of this made sense, some of it was nice. It says, "What the fact" from Facebook. On a quiet night when the stars shimmer like scattered diamonds across the velvet sky, the James Webb Telescope turned its gaze toward the mysterious interstellar traveler known as 3I Atlas. The enigmatic visitor has been racing through our solar system for millions of years, carrying secrets from beyond the stars. With the telescope's powerful lens, we can finally see its true form, a faint glowing silhouette drifting against the cosmic backdrop. Its elongated shape and subtle brightness hint at a history older than our sun, a relic of distant stellar events, or perhaps even a crafted messenger from far away. As it approaches the sun, the icy surface begins to shimmer in reflected light, creating a magical tail that stretches across millions of miles like a comet's whisper. Astronomers marvel at its unusual trajectory, moving unlike any known comet, a motion that seems deliberate and guided. Some speculate this celestial wanderer could be the interstellar cousin of Umamau, another visitor that sparked wonder and debate. Throughout August and into September, our moon also dances with the night sky, presenting the buck moon and sturgeon moon, each glowing golden and symbolic of harvest cycles and ancient folklore. Occasionally, the lunar orb aligns perfectly with Earth, casting a deep red glow during a lunar eclipse, reminding us of the delicate dance between celestial bodies. Supermoons amplify this brilliance, appearing larger and closer and stirring awe among all who lift their eyes. Each moment invites reflection and a sense of connection, whether you follow the stars through astrology gaze with wonder or simply delight in the night sky's beauty. The universe is alive with stories waiting to be read in light years and shadows. And a big reason why I like that is just because it's kind of poetic, and it just like calms you down to say, dude, it's a rock.
Yeah.
Just calm down. Everybody just calm down.
Rock.
It just happens to be with modern tech and things, the way we can see stuff we can actually see this coming.
Right.
And every year we get more and more advanced, and every day with AI and camera technology and chips and all this other stuff, computing power, we have a more advanced knowledge and way to see things a lot sooner.
Yep.
So like I said, 2017, they see this thing floating over on Saturn, and they sent the scout out. Now it's telling the big one to come.
We didn't even see that until it was past us.
Exactly.
And almost exiting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what's going to happen here is now they got it pinned at mid-December. Mm-hmm. It's going to pass through with little fanfare. And it's just interesting because it's coming from outside of our known galaxy. And with Umamau and what was the other one you said? This is the third one. So it's just that now we're seeing them, and like I've said before, like they're the ones we've seen. We don't know of the other ones because our tech wasn't there.
Right. And 100 years ago, 200 years ago, you wouldn't have known that.
And we had like 2007 probes out there looking for stuff that were sending back messages, seeing some stuff. It's like, think about your cars, an 07 versus a 2026 on its way. They're night and day technology. An 07 to a 97 to a 67, a 67 to a 27. That's kind of what's happening with our stuff out in space now.
Right.
And there's so much crap floating around the planet.
What was it? Voyager 1, where they sent out 49 years ago. It's still traveling, and it's been traveling at 30,000 miles an hour, 50,000 miles an hour for 49 years, and it still isn't even one light day away. It's incredible how fast light travels and how far out it is. But that's 49 years it's launched. So this technology now is incredible that they can see things.
This mothership that's on its way to take us over and destroy us is over 100 million miles away. Oh, yeah. And they're considering that really close.
Yeah.
And how can you? I don't want to start anything right now. So far into this, but like, how can you even measure distance in space when you're talking about the whole time continuum are so different? It's like this is going to pass behind the sun, and it's this many millions of miles. It's just, man, it can just bind you up for a second. But I think the bottom line is, guys, we're all going to become slaves to a UFO race. And they're going to mine us. They want our water. They want our bones. They want our skin. They're going to eat us. We're food, guys.
I mean,
we're cooked.
There's a theory that we're just vessels for souls, and they want our soul energy. They're just going to, that's why they keep
suck up the energy and move on to the next stop.
Yep.
That's it. We're cooked. We're cooked, guys. We're cooked.
All right.
But that's it for this week. Thanks for watching. We'll probably do these cross-channel events a few more times until things get rolling. Maybe do them all the time. I don't know. Whatever works for you guys. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate you listening in. Again, it's the American Anomalies Podcast. Yeah. Keep that there.
Check it out. If you want one, let us know.
Later. You're listening to the American Anomalies Podcast with Jeff Hill and Brett Morton.